Welcome to the Wild Rob and Ronnie show. Bob ain't here, and we was just talking about all sorts of good things. Carry on, Mr. Henson.
Well, I hope they got that air conditioner turned right down to jail there for Bob, to where he ain't uncomfortable.
I'm hoping they get a rope that ain't got no splinters in it.
Okay. Well, there's plenty of going on today and whatever, and everybody's discussing the flag, and I'm out trying to buy every Confederate flag I can. Anything that's got the stars and bars on it to try to hedge the market. Walmart, I reckon, is nationwide or probably worldwide is going to cease to sell anything. And I heard this news. I heard about the shooting on Red Eye Radio before. That was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or something. But anyhow,
You must quit that staying up early.
yeah, staying up early. I've heard some of the discussions on talk radio. I listened to a little of it this morning. Of course, that's the only thing talking is the flag. And
So you won't be thinking about the serious stuff.
well, yeah, right. I heard one comment is the people who suffered the loss at the church knocked the props right out under the news media whenever they said that they forgive this person, which
Have you ever considered that the U.S. flag flew over slavery longer than the stars and bars?
Oh man, stars and bars were only over slavery for about a little over 4 years.
Yeah, that's actually
like
a battle flag.
Yeah.
It was wasn't a Confederate flag at all.
Well, anyhow, whenever the people who lost their kinfolk or whatever down there, they forgave this guy, and that left the news media just stuck out there. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Incite a riot? And I don't know whether even Sharpton can go down and start a riot now, since they forgive them.
They done the right thing. I believe in forgiveness and punishment too. I think they ought to take that old boy out and hang him.
You're talking about forgiveness and justice. Okay. But
I mean, the thing about it is, if he'd been out there, if he'd had some legitimate claim against these people, he just went there and picked out somebody and started shooting. I wouldn't want, if he'd killed one of my family, I wouldn't have been in a forgiving mood, but I wouldn't have been in a take down the flag and let's pass new laws mood. I'd just be a shoot him in the head and forget him mood.
The news media had to go for something. So what they did is to swap the attention from the actual shooting over to the flag and blame the flag for what happened.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much society follows that. It makes no sense to me. I mean, the Civil War is over a long time ago and whatever, and if those people, if there's so many different sides of it, and I said years ago that if there was a real harassment over this flag or whatever, the people of color, if they would have adopted that flag as theirs and let it represent the suffering and everything that they went through under that flag and adopt it, can you imagine what that would have done to all the organizations, KKK for one, flying the flag that represents the people of color that had been oppressed? Can you imagine? They'd had to went and got them a different flag.
Well, these things are not sensible. There are people that make a ton of money off stirring this up.
Oh, there's money being made.
And another bunch of people that get all sorts of extra benefits for staying in the controversy and all that. We don't need, I tell you one thing's wrong with this country is 24-hour news coverage and nothing to talk about.
I made that statement one time.
And we're part of it.
We're part of it. I'll change the subject. We was putting radios in trucks one day, and we had radios that I believe we could talk from Barberville, Kentucky down to below the Georgia line, mobile to mobile. And I thought, boy, it's amazing to have all this means of communication and nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's basically what we are. We don't have anything else to talk about, so we're going to go after a flag.
And Bruce Jenner.
Well, You name
and
it.
Kim Kardashian,
Oh.
and all that foolishness that they talk about, and they don't worry nothing about the stuff that's going to matter to them. You
Not the
can't
real
get up a
things.
conversation anything serious, people, because they're so damn stupid they don't understand it. I don't take credit for being smart. I don't claim that, but I also don't get out here and talk about something that don't matter all the time, and think it is the only subject we need to cover. We got fires burning all over the world, and we're worried about a flag. The simple solution to this is take that little thug out and brain him, and do the same with some of these others, and then move on and forget about it.
That would kind of set a precedent for such things. I've read a couple of articles here local, and it had to do with the guns and shooting, where guns were used for defense of life and property. And in two that I read about, there's not going to be any charges brought against those who use the weapons to defend life and property.
Mm-hmm.
And this needs to be setting a precedent to a lot of situations. The law enforcement does what they can, but law enforcement cannot protect your property or your life. Just like in this area right here, if we have trouble, if somebody comes through this door right now, are you going to call 911? And all they'll get to do is
no, not if I can get to my pocket.
Well, I understand. So, anyhow, I hear another statement made, and I heard the president make a statement, and most of what he says, I can't use the words of what I think about it. It's kind of like the stuff that they used to.
We're on the internet. You can say whatever you want to.
They call it BS, but it stands for something else that comes out of the south end of a bull. But I heard him, and I believe...
If he's going north.
Yeah, I believe... Yeah, right. Clinton has said the same thing, and that's common sense gun law rules. But I've never heard them give their definition of what common sense is. They're talking circles, and
well, look, if all you had to do to get rid of guns and to make everybody happy and to stop violence, and the guy that's not big enough to wield the knife wouldn't have a gun, and the other guy would still have a knife. If we could just pass a law that would suddenly fix all that, I'd be for it. I really would. But you know, there are already laws against murdering people, and it ain't working.
Yeah, I believe that law's been in effect for a long time. There's all sorts of laws about stealing. What we need to do is pass a law, and that'll take care of it. Yeah, we need to pass another law. Why don't we pass a law against murder and killing and whatever?
Well, you'd think, but at this time in our certain situations, as long as we've had a country now, we'd have at least one law against murder.
Yeah,
you would think so.
Yeah.
Oh, but if we do, it ain't working, and I guess if we pass another law, it's bound to work well.
Fellers, the way I see it, you got to take care of yourself and your own until the people of authority can get there and write up the report, and then just hope that they see, or a judge or somebody sees it your way, and in them split-second decisions that you have to make.
Now, I like that old guy that went into the 7-Eleven down there, whatever it was, the bread box down there, and shot that old guy that had his gun pointed toward his girlfriend. I don't blame him. That's what he ought to done.
That feller...
Of course, his mommy wants the guy prosecuted because he didn't call 911 and wait on the law.
Yeah, right. And in a split second, his acquaintance there could have been a statistic.
Well, it was real simple. He just went in there and solved the problem, and he's done.
Well,
no trial, no nothing. You don't have to fool with all that foolishness.
And the fella who solved the problem, I believe he's a strong believer in gun control.
Well, it just means that he won't be able to hit what he shoots at.
Well, what he did, from what I can read, and they won't go into the details, he fired one round.
Yeah.
And they called it just a headshot.
Yeah. He controlled his gun
That's
real well, didn't he?
He's a strong believer in gun control, I believe.
I'm like this. I don't believe that anybody walks in off the street ought to be able to buy a gun. I really don't, because you've got some people out there. I don't believe everybody ought to drive a car. I don't believe everybody ought to be able to walk down the street themselves.
Well, when you say walk in off the street, what you're saying?
I'm just saying there should be some common sense to it.
You
don't
should. When you're saying should, that kind of puts a loophole in the thing. Those who want a weapon, if they're not legally entitled to possess, own, or whatever weapon, they just go somewhere else and get one.
I know, but what I mean to that, if somebody walks in here and says, "My wife's been seeing another man, I'm gonna go home and kill her."
Her? Okay.
I think that there should be some law requiring whoever's in the business of selling guns to call and say, "I've got a guy here who says he's gonna go home and kill his wife, and I don't really want to sell him a gun. Would you come down here and talk to him?"
Well, I believe that may come back to what they call common sense.
Well, yeah, it might do it, but I also think that if this woman is being threatened by some ex-husband or boyfriend or something, and she's actually afraid that she's going to get murdered, she shouldn't have to wait to buy a gun. She ought to be able to walk in and say, "I need to buy a gun to defend myself." They ought to sell her one and teach her to shoot it. But all this you're talking about, can't buy guns, that kid that walked in there with that pistol and shot them people could have walked in there with a shotgun. Anybody can buy a shotgun over 18 years old, I guess.
If you're intent on doing harm to people, there's so many different ways to do it.
If I was going to commit mass murder, I'd be in there with a pump shotgun rather than a pistol anyway.
Well, of course, you're looking at it from a practical where you've got an objective to do as much damage as possible. Yeah. That's what, whenever you call it a shotgun, a sawed-off shotgun with double-aught is what I consider an indiscriminate weapon. It takes down anything that's within a certain area.
Well, the thing about it is, if you just stop and think about it, all of this year mass shootings that we've got, if you'll add every one of them up, it's happened in the last 20 years, they won't much more than equal what's been done in Chicago in 1 or 2 weekends.
It's amazing that the president never references Chicago.
Well, of course
and
not.
neither does Hillary or anybody else.
And you remember the first one of these things I ever heard about was back when that guy went up in the tower down in Texas that time. And there was shooting people. He ended up had a brain tumor.
Is that right?
Yeah, they done an autopsy of the guy. He had a brain tumor. Whether that had anything to do with it or not, I don't know, but I'm sure it didn't help his mental attitude too much.
Well,
so that was a case where maybe if his family had been a little more observant and said, "Look, he's having some problems here. He's doing some funny stuff. We need to get him looked at." Whether it would have had any effect on the final outcome, not a different thing. But that's where family needs to be involved a little bit. They just got some kid, some 19-year-old, 18-year-old, something, where his daddy turned him in because he's got off and was going to be a jihadist, and his daddy turned him in and get him fixed up for him. Yeah.
As best I recall, the person in Texas was former military, I believe, if I remember correctly, and I believe he was. Now I could be very wrong on that.
It's been
but he knew how to use a weapon, of course. Yep. We hear stuff and we just mark it off and forget all of it. But during one of these little spurts like what we're having right now, I don't remember who it was, but it was some person, elected official or something, came down, and it may be in effect and I don't know about it right now, but there was some sort of a regulation wanting to be placed on any former military person because they did know how to use weapons and other things. So my understanding was they was wanting to either make the standard higher for them or just deny them the right to
Well, if
own a
I was
weapon.
going to be, I mean, I'd want somebody to know how to shoot, shooting at me rather than one that didn't know how to shoot. He'd just bugger me up.
Yeah.
If you get shot, don't call 911. Call Vital Care, 562-9370. They'll haul you to the hospital and get you fixed up. If you shot real bad, go ahead and call the sheriff. They might have time to take care of you. Vital Care is the people to call, though. 562-9370, and they can ventilate you while you get in the hospital. Get your other ventilation plugged up. How'd I do?
Yeah, if you're able.
Yeah.
If not, try to have somebody else make the call.
How's your mom-in-law?
Well, day by day. Yeah, day by day.
Don't forget Vital Care. They got them there pretty trucks runs up and down the road, and they know how to drive, and they good people, and they work hard, and they independently owned, and they ain't taking your tax money. 562-9370.
I was thinking today, everything is words. We communicate by words, and we place emphasis on words. It's like
I do a lot of body language myself.
yeah, that single finger salutes and stuff like that. I think there's a word that's coming down to it's going to be obsolete.
Some old guy gave the president a double bird.
Did he?
Yeah, he's up there up there Martha's Vineyard, and he's out there at hot blazes, and they had a traffic stop, and here goes the president going to play golf, and he got out there and pitched him a double bird.
Well, I'm sure the president had the windows rolled down enjoying the atmosphere.
I'm sure he did too.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't climate control. The words, we've changed the meaning of them, and have definitely changed the meaning of the word of marriage. But the
Well, I
word,
reckon.
yeah, right. Marriage, I've looked up the latest definition, and marriage can mean anything now. It has no biblical or any other type meaning. But anyhow, a word that I look to become antiquated, it'll be used, but it has no more meaning in it, and that's the word truth.
Yeah.
From what we hear on news, and I heard the president say the other day that the United States, this is one of his talk programs or something, that there was no such thing as these mass shootings and whatever in other, I think he said developed countries.
Yeah.
Now I don't know a developed country. I guess we're supposed to be developed. We've got people living on reservations, and you can't watch TV for children hungry and whatever.
Another thing you got mass stabbings over in England.
Well, maybe
You
that's
remember that guy they cut his head off?
Oh, I'll tell you, I saw part of that soldier. Wasn't it the soldier
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut his head off. Didn't have a gun to shoot him, they just cut his head off.
Well, it's a shame he wasn't
Armed.
able to do, yeah, right, armed. Just to where, well, anyhow, the world is upside down, and the word truth, I think, is going to go the way of the word marriage. Truth, I believe somebody said it's whatever you believe it is. I believe, well, now I don't remember who made that statement.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I used to think that there was a way to turn things around and there was hope for the country and all that, but there ain't. The only thing that's going to, you look back through history, the only time you have any significant changes in the course of events is when the people who are at the top rungs of the working class can no longer manipulate the system in their favor. And we're not there yet, because they're still manipulating the system in their favor. That's what this year trade agreement's all about. The Democrats and Republicans are all in there trying to make some deals so somebody else can manipulate the system to make an extra dollar. And as long as they're able to do that, we're not going to have any significant changes. When it gets so tight that they can't do that any longer, then we'll have a revolution. We'll have a change. Things will become different. And you can look back even at the founding of this country. We lived under the king's rules for years, and we're a whole lot more free then than we are now, and the changes that only came about when the rules of the king started to bite the upper crust of the productive class. Whenever Sam Adams and Benjamin Franklin and the other successful entrepreneurs could no longer work beneficially within the existing system, we had a revolution.
What that is today, I've read some articles and stuff as to when people will revolt, and it has to do with certain conditions, and one of the conditions is hunger. When people get hungry, it don't take them long. Now, when the working people, and I'm talking about the people who are producing stuff like food, electricity, the things that make life comfortable, when these people get to the point that they can't produce enough to keep all the higher crust in comfortable, well-fed, and then feed their family, then you're going to have trouble. When it comes down to the point that the working class people out here, the people, and I'm not talking about paper shufflers or anything else, I'm talking about the working people, get to the point that they can no longer provide for themselves because everything that they're producing is going to the elite or people who are in positions of power, then these people are going to have to start going hungry, and people right now are having to make these decisions right now.
Well, the thing about it is, though, when you're that low on the ladder, they will cause problems, but they won't make any significant changes because the people that have control, the working wealthy,
right,
they're not worried about that stuff. So you're not going to have any major changes. Now, I've had arguments with people before. I remember when I was growing up, and you probably heard the same thing, people would talk about how foolish the Marshall Plan was. They went in there and destroyed Europe, and they beat back the Germans, and they beat back Italy, and they took the thing back from the fascists and the Nazis and the communists, and then what they do, they took our money right over there and went to rebuilding that place. Well, that on the surface, that sounds completely logical, that argument, I mean. But the rest of the story is, you had people there that didn't care nothing about being in a war, didn't have no dog in the show, and you still had the people that was all for the war, but none of them were going to starve. They were not going to sit there. I might sit here at my kitchen table and go hungry and think, well, that's just the way it is, but I won't look across the table at my poor little snot-nosed young'uns over there starving to death and not want to go start a fight with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the smartest things we done was to rebuild Europe to the point where it could feed itself.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily arm itself, but feed itself. Well, you have two startings of revolution. You have on the lower level like that where the people are hungry and starving, and they'll come out with axes and pitchforks, and they will get some changes made, no doubt about it. But to have a change of course, a change of government, you got to have people that can drive tanks and not just carry pitchforks.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes about whenever you get up into the upper crust of the producers, when they can no longer. I mean, we know these laws are bad. You take Donald Trump. Everybody last week was wild about Donald Trump. That old son of a bitch, all he ever wanted to do was use the government to take somebody else's property so he could develop it in a better way. That's stealing.
Eminent domain or whatever.
Yeah, that was
Indirectly
stealing.
or whatever.
He's a big proponent of that. Well, he's a proponent of it, despite the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, because he can use that to his benefit. When the government gets so coercive and so dictatorial that he can't do that anymore, he's ready to go start a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's when you have a major change in the flow of government. The only thing you're going to get from people like us complaining is just maybe more food stamps or something.
We do a lot of talking about it, and we can see problems that are close to us or whatever, but we're not allowed to solve the problems. We may think we can, but when you go out here to solve a problem, you're going to find that the main problem is there's a law against whatever it takes to solve the problem.
Yep.
It's illegal, somebody's in a position of authority or whatever, and the general public, I saw something the other day, and I read an article, and it has to do with the fellow in the 15th district down here who made untold amounts of money off of a law that he promoted and whatever, and that was with a cigarette tax. And of course, the people who do the interviewing and write up the articles, they interview the people. They'll interview 10 of them, and they'll pick the 3 that have the same opinion as to what they want to print or put across.
Yep.
But anyhow, all the people that they interviewed were all out for this representative. His name was Armstrong. He made a ton of money by doing nothing more than shuffling paper.
He should have bought cattle futures.
Well,
he wouldn't have had a problem. He could have run for president.
You think this? Some people think, oh, this was a smart fella. I don't think it takes a smart person to pass a law and figure the odds. This guy bought these cigarette tax stamps for 20 cents. Mm-hmm. That's what the going rate, and that's what the stamp cost. He bought the stamps, held them till the law changed, which he was promoting the law, and Bresnan signed this thing in, so I'm sure Bresnan most likely had something to do with it. I don't know whether he was bought into it or whatever, but anyhow, Armstrong grossed $1.2 million out of the deal. He netted over $500,000 clear money off this deal. Mm-hmm. Okay, this I don't know whether you say it cost the taxpayers or what. I can't figure out that angle of it, but yet it benefited him that much money. It
cost him half the price of the stamps that he pasted, because how can you hold a stamp anyway? They got a money value marked on them.
Well, he bought them. No,
they used to have 20 cents printed on them.
That's correct, but somehow, at the date of the change, now I don't know what that part of it was, how that part worked, but the stamps that I put on years ago, and that's, like I say, it was my first job, paying job, was putting tax on cigarettes.
They used
a machine to do it with.
What was the glue? Didn't they use flour or something?
No, we didn't glue them. We stamped them with ink. We had a machine.
Well, they had one that heated something.
Well, I'm sure they did. But the machine I worked with, it would take 1 carton of cigarettes, 10 packs, and you line these things up, and it had a trigger on it. When you go in, that thing would shoot that cigarette through there, and it would roll and count. And at the same time, it had ink in it, and it would put this stamp on with ink with a number, register or whatever. And what you would do is you'd run these things through, and I believe I ran, in 11 months, I ran a little over 1 million packs through it. But anyhow, ever so many days you'd take this thing to the bank, and the bank had a key, and they would turn the numbers on the thing to register them or whatever else, and then you had a check, and they wrote the check out for whatever amount the tax was. But anyhow, what gets me is his constituents that they interviewed and reported, and I'm sure all of his constituents don't feel this way, but they kind of feel like, I think, that he ought to be given an award because of all the good he has done. Well, seems to me like the good that he has done.
You can never underestimate the stupidity of the general public.
The people who support him are people who have gotten favors or some sort of.
You see that
they've
locally.
enjoyed the benefits of him being in there. Yeah, locally it's done all the time. But anyhow, they place, I don't know what you'd call it, favoritism or whatever over justice. And this person, Armstrong, in my opinion, will never do any restitutions or whatever. But now, he did lie to the federal government.
Well, you know, I think they're going to put Martha Stewart in jail. They'll put him in jail.
Well, I've read it, the articles that have come down on it. I read the first ones and the second one and whatever I can. and I'm going to try to keep up with it and see how close that my opinion is as to how it will go. See if my cloudy crystal ball, and if past experiences and what I've seen in the past is any standard for what's going to happen in the future, I'd say he'll get judicial diversion and still hold his seat, still hold his retirement or whatever else.
No, he probably has to resign about time to run again and get reelected.
Well, he's already served 28 years.
Really?
As state representative. So he probably didn't know that this was illegal. And this is what some of his constituents say. They said that he made a mistake.
Yeah, he
if
got
this
caught.
was a mistake,
That's a mistake he made. He got caught.
I'd say you're right. But from what I see of people, and this gentleman has been into politics, he was the youngest county commissioner in Knox County ever, I reckon. Or that's what the paper states.
Is he from Knox County?
Yeah, Knox County, the 15th district.
Okay.
Includes Knox County.
I didn't know where it was.
Yeah, and
see, I don't have television, don't read the paper. I'm just completely out of the loop.
Well, I don't. You're better off, I'll guarantee you. I'm sure the mayor, Roharo, will come out in support of him.
He didn't mean to.
Here's the point I'm thinking. The people, every thief that I have ever caught and held to justice. Well, not only that, but when you put their name in there and run back, you always find many. They didn't just start 28 years after they went into politics. In my opinion, this one's the one he got caught at. In my opinion, he's been involved in other stuff.
I have found that people are either crooked or they ain't.
Well, that's right. He didn't at this age. In 2006, he didn't just right then decide to become what is the crook? You name it. Whatever adjective you want to use. I'm sure there's plenty of politically correct adjectives.
If you see a situation where somebody's kid's going to die if they don't have a major operation, the guy don't have any money, and he's in a position to steal enough to get his kid out, I think that might be a one-time thing, and that's one of them deals where good people do bad things. But if you find somebody that's out here being dishonest, if it's just a little bit dishonest or a whole lot dishonest, he knows it's wrong. He's a crook from day one. He always has been, he always will be. He just ain't been caught much.
Okay. Armstrong sits on, if I'm not mistaken, the board of directors of a bank over there. He, from the testimony or whatever that his accountant gave, he came to his accountant first and tried to acquire the revenue or the funds to do this.
Yeah.
And his accountant suggested to him that he go to the bank, and I'm going to say most likely the bank that he's on the board of directors, to acquire $250,000 to buy these stamps. Okay. Now, further I read that he is either the CEO or maybe the owner of a gas pipeline or parts of a gas pipeline. A person who is this well fixed is not doing this because his children have some sort of a
He's just
ailment.
been a crook all his life.
He's a crook.
You know he has.
He did this for financial gain.
Mom and Daddy learned him to be crooked.
Opinion.
He's been crooked all his life.
In my opinion, he did it for financial gain, and those constituents who will stand up and let him go get away with it, they deserve him.
Yeah, they do.
That's what they deserve, and more power to them. As a matter of fact, they probably need about 10 more just like him, and may already have them and don't know it.
I'm sure they do.
But anyhow, enough on that. Time wasted, really, mostly. What else are you seeing?
Well, I just checking on something, but I ain't got nothing to do with this show right now because I thought about it.
Crossed your mind?
Yeah. I'm thinking that people get the kind of representation they deserve and I wouldn't have. You couldn't law an office off on me, not because I'm so honest. I just wouldn't. I don't want it. I ain't nothing they got I want. If I can't go out there and do the right thing and feel good about it, I ain't going. So I just ain't gonna go.
Seems to me like as I get miles on me, time is taking on a lot more value to me than a lot of other things. And someone asked me why I ran for one office, and was thank goodness I didn't win it. Man, that the man above was looking out for me.
You'd have made a good politician.
Yeah, I believe that everybody's got a price, and I don't think anybody's met my price yet, but maybe they would have. Who knows? And I was asked why I didn't run again, and my simple statement was, I have no need or desire whatsoever to tell people what to do. And that's about the size of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to tell people what to do for so many years that ain't got nothing to prove, I guess. Our local lady who writes the article,
Who should not be named here.
acquaintances of yours.
Yeah.
But anyhow, in her article, she challenged the people, the local people, to, whenever they come up with a problem, to give some sort of a solution.
The solution is to vote them all out of office if people won't do it. The solution is to stop listening to people who don't know nothing, including us. I just don't like that woman.
Well, anyhow,
there ain't no solution.
That's you and them.
Here's the solution. She goes out there and knows everything and never made a mistake in her life, but she supports crooks. Now that ain't no way to make any changes, is support a crook. Well,
but the subject of solutions to problems, I would suggest in our local communities that we take away all compensation for, like the commissioners and whatever else, that they run or that they apply for these offices and get elected to be what's
it wouldn't
called.
make any difference. They'd get that kickback.
Well,
the same.
At least they'd have to steal it that way.
Well, what
right
I think
out
we ought to do is make a mandatory, no appeals, just instant justice law that anybody that takes it under the table payment is automatically took out and shot.
Well, yeah.
You wouldn't get many dishonest people in office if you enforced that law.
I could see that. Anyhow, I heard that the president says, or some scientist has advised him, that we're on the road to the extinction. That the human race, the children born today, will see the extinction of the human race. We'll be extinct. And
I can't wait.
Well,
I hope we extinct some of the selected people first.
The sea's going to rise untold, you name it, whatever. The sky's going to fall. I've kind of starting to take a different view of things. I heard the other day that Sasquatch had been seen somewhere down here.
In one of the skunk ape?
No, it was Sasquatch. Sasquatch. I tell you what, if I was Sasquatch and I had all that hair on me, I believe I'd be going north instead of south, or be watching the weather forecast. But on the other hand, I do believe I seen a little Sasquatch. He was walking down the road, and he had a boombox set up on his shoulder.
That's him.
And he was a jiving.
But you know, just because it's hot weather don't mean you don't need no propane.
No,
because propane will work in refrigerators, and it'll also fire up your campsite out in the woods.
And it'll also power your tow motors.
It will, and it will make your generator run so you can have electricity so you can cool the air conditioner. 562-5444, the propane don't go off just because the tree falls over the electric wire. 562-5444 down there in the middle of the road in Sawmill Holler, talk to Digger. He's a man with a plan.
I've thought about residents. We always pass rules, regulations, and everything else, and I know this won't fly because too many people live off of it. But I've often thought that every resident should be self-sufficient as far as power is concerned. And I'm talking about their electricity. Every resident should generate its own electricity.
Well, that would be interesting, especially when the sun wasn't shining.
No, I'm not talking about the sun. I'm talking about...
put Granny on a bicycle.
Okay, Granny on a bicycle. But of the winter, my take on it would have been very efficient, is to take a small generator and have it propane powered or natural gas, either one, that runs a small generator. Have this generator so designed, not like these jets are talking about where you're getting sweep off of it into the cabin that's toxic. I'm talking about have a heat exchanger to where that you can pull every bit of the heat off of that engine while it's running. It's going to heat your residence as well as generate your electricity at the same time. And
you're going to do what?
It's going to heat your residence. Get you a generator and run it. It'll heat your residence. Plus, you got the electricity to run your residence as far as your electricity is concerned.
You can only get as much energy out of it as is in the propane.
That is correct. But, first of all, you would save line drop. From where our electricity being generated, whether it's at North Dam, or Bull Run, or Kingston, or over they're over at the nuclear plant in Spring City.
Well, the electricity from Spring City to your house is better than 90% efficiency of the delivery rate. There ain't no generation system you put in your house that comes anywhere near that.
Can carry 90%?
Better than 90%.
Okay. What about the heat that you save off the engine?
You can say that,
okay.
But I'm only telling you, there's just so much energy in a pound or a gallon or a tank of propane.
Oh, right.
And two things happen. When you recover as much heat from the exhaust system as you can, you lower the efficiency of your generator just a little bit, your internal combustion engine. You lower the efficiency of it a little bit by taking heat away from the process. But even if the most efficient use you can get of that propane is to directly burn it.
Right,
but
okay.
I don't care if you make electricity out of it. All you can get out of it is what you burn out of it. Now, if you use it to make electricity and then save the heat, you get less energy out of it then than you did when you just burn it straight.
I agree, but all I'm talking about is generate the electricity. Right now, you can go up to the plant there and kick 150 horsepower straight across the line, or 50 horse straight across the line. That means that much electricity is standing there, and we don't use it maybe once a day. Okay, what about where's that electricity going the rest of the day?
Well, that's the whole problem. You have to have a generator capacity that exceeds your average usage.
Okay,
but you're talking about a storage problem now, and that's the major defect of AC electricity is the inefficiency of storage. You ever noticed you cross the mountain going from Tennessee and North Carolina, going out 40, and down there on the other side, in the North Carolina side, unless it's been changed, Carolina Power and Light, I think, has got they've got a pipeline.
Yeah, they got a lake on top of the mountain.
Yeah, what they do is they whenever of a night, when in the summertime or whenever there ain't nobody using much electricity, they've got their generators going full force, so they've got the maximum generation efficiency, and they pump water up on top of the mountain. And then whenever they have a peak demand, they turn that water loose to turn a turbine to add to their capacity.
They are producing this electricity by turbine, right? By water?
Well,
the original.
I don't think so.
How they producing the electricity?
There wouldn't be no sense doing that.
Okay, well, how are they producing the electricity?
I think
by coal?
they've got a coal plant, or used to have a coal. I don't know whether it's still there. I hadn't been across through there in years, but it was originally a fired plant, and I'm going to assume it was a coal-fired plant, which operates much better if you run it full force, full time, than it does to just turn it on. And the thing is, since they have a peak demand and a minimal demand period, they would have to be able to, if they didn't have any additional resources, you'd have to be able to meet that peak demand at any time.
That's where we're at.
But by doing this, they can use a less robust generation system, because they're, whenever that peak demand comes, they use that thing up on top of the mountain to add to it.
Right. They're already, what they have done, they have taken energy that was going to be wasted. It was going to be generated but not used, and they use it to put the water up, the weight of the water for generating.
Well,
but this is the point I'm trying to get around to, is right now, on these coal-fired plants, you cannot just turn them things up and down with a flip of a switch. Same way with nuclear, you can't do it. You have to bring them up slow and take them down slow.
Yep.
When we worked at the Bull Run plant, if you were going to have a scheduled maintenance shutdown, it would take you about probably a week to bring that thing down. You don't, everything's hot and cooking. You can't just,
if you turn them off, you get all sorts of,
you get kind of expansion and retraction.
yeah, you get a lot of
Cracks.
deformation.
Cracks. So
You know, you shut a steam engine down and close the lid on it and go back and have side sucked in the next morning.
That's correct. And bringing it back online, they have to use diesel fuel or natural gas to bring it back up, and so forth. But the point I'm trying to make is, first of all, if you could do this, you could do away with a large percentage of your power lines. Okay, power lines are upkeep. There's people out here today cutting trees out of power lines. Also, power lines, when a tree is touching a power line, your primary line, you're getting a leak. It'll leak off. It'll follow it down to the ground.
Yep. That's where you get most of your lossage.
Right. You're getting that, and also, like whether we can start these motors, all this electricity is being generated and not used. And the one that you're talking about in North Carolina is the only one, and I'm sure there's others, but it's the only one I know of locally that does that. And I don't know whether they still do it or not, but I'm pretty sure they do. But there's, to me, if you could come up, electricity, whenever they're firing, okay, let me back up and say this. Right now, just about all your generating plants that are coming on are gas powered in this area. They're powered by natural gas or fueled by natural gas. They're shutting the coal units down. They'll shut, like one place, I don't know how many Bull Run's got, I believe Kingston had about 6 units. And they could start shutting certain units down or switching them over to natural gas. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you can produce the electricity that you need to run your house, and then, like you say, the storage thing, and Tesla says that they have solved that problem, but I haven't seen it yet. So whether they can build a battery.
We don't have a problem. We've got solar power on our schools here, and as soon as we can get a little more space, we're going to power the whole county off that.
Right. Yeah, and like I said,
and that's the way Tesla's solved this problem too, by the way. Tax money. Yeah,
tax money. That's like I say, Sasquatch, he was down here, I believe he's down there trying to get him a Frosty.
You know Tesla, what's his name? What is that guy's name?
Well, the one that runs, I don't know. He picked up a good name though.
Something Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I mean, the people just wonders of his entrepreneurial and inventive skills.
Well, I bet he went down to Oak Ridge to the Titan and typed this information in, and it told him how to do it.
Well, what it is, though, he has done great things, but we've subsidized him. Without our money, he wouldn't be nothing. And what his major accomplishment is, he's learned to manipulate the system. And as long as people can keep manipulating the system like that, we're not going to have any changes.
Right. I understand. And it's being done every day.
And that's the reason that you're not going to see solutions on the local level, because you don't want solutions. You just want your man in there doing your thing. You don't, I mean, generally speaking, You don't want solutions, you just want your man in position.
One solution to the problem would be to require every member on every commission ever so often have a solution or a suggestion for a solution.
Wouldn't do no good. There ain't no hope.
Okay.
Really, there ain't no hope.
Well, I'll have to agree with you. Maybe we ought to go talk to Sasquatch and he could tell us about it.
I just hope he buys his spark plugs up at Napa. Because if he needs a spark plug for his Sasquatch mobile, he needs to go up Napa and get it, and they can run your lawnmower. They got all sorts of parts. They got the national hookup, 562-2529. Don't listen to these here knockoff people like Bob. It's 562-2529, and I believe it's 9403 or something, but don't worry about that one. You just go up there and see Randy. He'll take care of you. Right across from the IGA. That's Napa across from the IGA. Right on the 4-lane. And we just got a little bit more time. We may knock off just about 5 minutes early because I've got some other commitments here. One of them is to go out and find a shade tree. It's hot in here. This air
conditioner in here, buddy, is getting... We're going to have to turn the heat back on.
Man could freeze to death in here.
I believe right here, when it hits 110, I think y'all start handing out towels.
Well, now, I want you to know that if I didn't have this place insulated, you'd really be sweating. If you need any insulation, we sell it down there at Circle R Metal.
There you go. I think we've pretty well solved the world's problems today. No, I don't guess we have. Maybe we haven't even
pointed them out.
Well, maybe we have.
Our job is not to solve. Our job is to point out. That's the same way about this here. What are your solutions? Horse shit. Just don't get it with me.
Yeah. Well, I would assume today that Armstrong down there in the 15th District is buying up everything he can that's got the Confederate logo on it, because I figure the price is going to go sky high on it. So if them people down there in South Carolina would start buying all this stuff up, so whenever they make a law against it, then you might make a heck of a profit right there.
Well, I think we ought to buy all our... Hang on to your Confederate money, too.
Yeah. Well, the American flag has been under attack for a long time from different freedom of expression and so forth. But if the people will look, and most of them are not looking at the fact, the real facts about slavery in this country, and it's going on right now today in other countries under a different name, but it's still slavery if you kind of go back to the definition of what slavery is. But slavery did exist far longer under the American flag than it did the Confederate battle flag. And the only reason it seems to me like that they really jumped on it is because those people forgave this guy, and the news media didn't have anything to jump on, and seems like they got plenty of supporters.
You've got people that jump on this thing that get on the latest trend, just like the support Donald Trump is seeing, because he's come out there and made an interesting speech to people, and they don't look any deeper than that speech. They don't see
how he got to the position where he's at.
And they don't think about what he's going to do in the future. And you have the same thing going on with anytime you have a thug goes in and shoots up a place like this, you're going to have people come out there and talk about something like it's the end of the world, and it's as bad for the families, and I'm not taking away from that at all, and I don't think this guy needs a fair trial. He needs just taken out and kill him. Yeah. But you're not going to get that point across to people. They're going to just go right along with this flow of events and all these new talking points people come up with, and they're not going to accomplish anything. There's no solution to that either. The solution is take him out and knock him in the head and move on. Make a good example for the next guy. They shouldn't. If they want to pass a law, they should pass a law that anytime something like this happens, you're not allowed to mention his name and to put it in the headline and to make him famous. What you got to do is just have instant justice and be done with it.
If South Carolina passes the law to outlaw the flag, which everybody's jumped on that bandwagon, do you reckon they'll call it the whatever. What was his name? I can't remember, but his last name was Roof. Demon or something other. Roof. You reckon they'll call it the Damon or whatever Roof law?
I don't know, but I hope they don't pass too many laws pertaining to roofing, because that'll affect me.
Yeah. If you come right down to it, if his objective was to start a ruckus or whatever, he may have not started a riot, but he has succeeded in starting a whole bunch of controversy.
How much have you heard about this? You heard this conversation going on anywhere besides right here?
Concerning
this shooting and this rebel flag and stuff?
Yeah. It's all over.
Let me ask you another question.
Whatever.
Let me ask you another question. Are you aware that some of the Supreme Court justices actually argued that some guy out there raising raisins owed a good percentage of his raisins to the federal government just because he was raising raisins?
I heard something about that.
But you've not heard all these people throwing fits and having all this deep, lasting conversations about it, have you? Theft by government is not interesting.
Okay, if you call it theft by government, what it boils down to is this fella is working for little or no pay. And what is the definition of slavery?
Well, I would say that'd be working for little or no pay.
Little or no pay. And the majority of the people out here, they're working just to put bread on the table, and everything else.
But you don't hear people raising a ruckus over something that actually matters to them. They're worried about whether South Carolina's got a Confederate battle flag flying somewhere around the Capitol. That may offend somebody, but it ain't going to starve them.
Why? Well, this is, what do we call this?
I'd call it bread and circuses. Take your mind off what's really happening.
Right, where they tax you for an intangible
Yeah.
or whatever else.
View.
If you go,
they tax your view.
They tax you for a view.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, just don't look. It's kind of like I heard all these things. I don't like the looks of it. Well, don't look. I've seen things, especially.
Well, I'm making everybody's taxes cheaper thanks to Bob. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, bringing taxes down, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee you.
Their view ain't near as enticing as it would be if Bob had a rose garden up there.
I'll guarantee you, if somebody moved a hog lot in next to my property, my taxes would not go down. I'll guarantee you they wouldn't. So
I can't get over Melvin and going to get out there and saw lumber in the middle of the night.
Bullshit. Yeah, that right there goes to show you that. Well,
you ever seen anybody run a sawmill around here of a night?
You don't run a sawmill of the night without you got some mighty good lighting a mighty good market.
You might do it, in a big industrial setup. I know they do. But around here, some of those sawmills setting up in somebody's backyard, you'd run out of fingers and toes quick.
It'd do good to run once a week. But anyhow, this is the hype that's used in all time. Whenever you want to sell an idea, they tell us, I believe Obama made that statement that we're going to become extinct according to certain scientists. They also said that the ocean is going to raise untold amounts.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 feet.
If the people who lived on the ocean believed this, they'd all be getting the heck out of there, and the realtors would be moving their lines back and whatever else. So don't buy into this crap.
Well, in the first place, it ain't going to happen. I just say flat. And even if it did happen, it ain't going to happen immediately. And I would like to know why that people get so upset about it. If Miami is indeed going to be underwater, and we've got 50 years to do something about it, that was a swamp 50 years ago.
Yeah.
They'll do something about it before it happens. They just change their pattern.
China's got the solution.
Yeah.
Just go out there and build a... They're going to build 2,000. Well, they've just about completed 2,000 acres out there in the South China Sea.
Well, I'm all for that.
Just dip down there and.
I wish that I could get enough Dixie concrete to build me an island.
There you go. That won't capsize.
I won't roll over. But I'd like to have an island. I'd just go out there and declare myself independent of all countries. But I need something with some dirt on it too. You can't raise taters and concrete.
Raise tomatoes and taters.
Yeah.
Right.
We got to go. Thank you, Henson. Been a pleasure doing this week.
Have we offended everybody?
Yeah, we'll see you Saturday, folks, on the radio, and I guess just on the radio, 1450 WLAF. Also at 1450 AM and 100.9 FM. Thank you and bye.